I remember after paying all the bills and getting grocery and gas for that period of time, having $8 left in our account to make it till the next payday. I remember those days. And so, yeah, we've never made above 75,000 a year combined, with raising a family of 5.
You're listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast, where you'll hear the stories and interviews of everyday millionaires. We'll unveil their decisions, their strategies, and their current portfolio allocation. Now to your hosts, Clark Sheffield and Jace Mattinson.
Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of the Millionaires Unveiled podcast, episode 187. This is Clark here with my co-host Jace. Jace, what's going on?
Not a whole lot, man. What's going on with you?
Not much. Did you get your taxes filed on time?
No, man. I filed an extension.
May 17th, so just last week. You did?
Yeah, I knew I filed an extension. I'm getting on the path of filing an extension almost every year. It's just, getting the K-1s in and just trying to get it all together. There's always so much going on this time of year, and just, I filed an extension.
Well,
I tried not to.
If you owe taxes, if you don't get everything.
So I try to get a bunch of it kind of done, and then just some of the loose ends, just especially this year with a couple K1s, they just didn't get put in. So I figure I'm pretty close. If I'm off by $1,000 or $2,000, it's not the end of the world. Or if I overpaid a little bit, it's not the end of the world too. I mean, as long as I'm within a few grand, I'm happy. What about you?
I did. We was just waiting on a final thing and got it, filed it, all done.
There you go, man.
Good feeling to have that done.
Yeah, no, I was really trying really hard, but I just had a bunch of other stuff on my plate, so I just didn't get to it. So it is what it is. But been watching all the cryptos drop like a rock lately.
Oh yeah, totally. And you have some. I don't have any crypto holdings.
I do have some crypto, but I'll tell you what, it hasn't been dropping. There are a bunch on sale, and I've been buying some. So
you gonna sell it or hold it?
Nah, I'm holding for the long term. One, it just kind of started as I was playing around, right? Some of the stuff I bought when it was pennies. So it's like, until it goes back. Yeah, my Dogecoin, yeah, I got some Dogecoin. I do. I bought it when it was pennies. And I bought it a little bit more as it kind of went up to 10, 11 cents. And then I bought a little bit since then when it was at 30. But yeah,
And now it's what, like 42?
Yeah, I think it's 40-something. It went up to 60 or 70 and then dropped back down in 30s, 40s. I don't know. It's wherever. It's just one of those things I think it's fun to play with a little bit. And I do think there is a future in an alternative means of the way we transact, whether it's crypto or the blockchain or something similar. I think, some of these private equity investments, there's a couple kids we went to school with, right? They just got a $100 million funding round for their company that's basically going to be software to track this stuff. So there's a lot smarter people out there than I am chasing some of this and risking a little bit. I just figure I can probably risk a little bit and see where it goes. So that's what I did. I missed out on Bitcoin in a lot of ways where I didn't buy it back when I kind of discovered it. And part of it was trying to figure out how to buy it, but I wasn't smart enough to mine it. So couldn't buy it on Robinhood. Robinhood didn't exist. But now it's back down to like 40,000.
Yeah, now. What percentage of cryptocurrency is owned Robinhood?
Oh, I don't know. It's got to be substantial. Between them and Coinbase, it's like that's really, those dominate the wallets, at least in the United States. Outside there's some more, but, there's crypto's made several billionaires at this point too. Billionaire in crypto, which, how do you quantify unless they actually totally sold it or whatever. But it's, it's a little speculative, I'll admit, but I like having it. I've got some in all of it. Litecoin, your Ethereum, Bitcoin, Doge.
Yeah, I just did a quick Google search. What percent of crypto is held on Robinhood, but got nothing.
Yeah, I'm sure it's hard for them to probably come up.
9.5 million customers, though, on Robinhood. 9.5 million people.
That's a lot.
Crazy. And pretty crazy that came in when, everything was already easy at Fidelity and Vanguard, right? You could buy any stock on those, right, on an app in your phone. And then I don't really know what they did. That was much better.
I think part of it is that millennial generation of clicking and buying at the swipe of a button and swiping up, and they did a great job on their marketing where you basically got a free stock for
just
sharing,
the simplicity.
Right? Yeah, simplicity. You swipe up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a huge deal, right? When millennials are on their phones, they swipe up, buy a stock. It's like super easy, super simple. They also funded on margin a lot, and they also gave you funds in your account before it even funded. So you could trade it. You could sign up and trade a stock before you even technically had funded your account. Whereas, those brokerage houses, it's just like 3 days.
Wait for it to settle.
Yeah.
What was your free stock when you signed up? You remember?
Oh, freak! I don't know. I'd have to look.
I can't remember what mine was. It was like $2 though. You still hold it?
Yeah, I do. CPRX. I got one share.
Your free Robinhood?
Yeah, $5.65. It's Catalyst Pharmaceuticals. I don't know anything about the company, but I got one share that I got from Robinhood. It's $5.63.
And it's probably up since you bought it.
Since I got it, yes, it is actually quite a bit. It's almost doubled.
Oh, that's funny.
The market cap on it's $525 million.
Say it again?
The market cap's $525 million. It's not bad.
All righty, let's jump in here to a quick episode recap and intro for this week. So, intro for this week, we have Cheri. She's self-employed, net worth of $1 million, has 7 rental properties and a small business, and also does quite a lot of work for a nonprofit. So, fun interview with her. Last week, we had Mr. Nomad. He's French. He's been traveling the world full-time since 2018, spending about $30,000 to $40,000 a year while doing it. So, interesting perspective from him. Net worth of 1.2. He's got about 20% real estate, 65% in equities. So good interview with him and different perspective. Somebody that's traveling full time, spending $40,000 a year. We have a new website up. If you haven't seen it, check it out. You can engage with millionaires, ask questions, leave comments to their interviews. I think some people write in questions to us or, hey, can I get engaged with this millionaire? And now you can. When we launch each episode, we'll put that online and people can go engage with millionaires. Also, you can ask a question via SpeakPipe where you can record an interview or a question and we'll play it in to the show, to the intro here or during the interview. And you can connect and ask one of the millionaires questions. So check out the website. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. And without any further delay, let's get into today's interview with Cheri.
Cheri, do you want to just give us a little bit about your background and what you're up to now?
So I am self-employed. My husband and I own a business called First Impressions Home and Property Preparation. And we maintain homes for people, senior citizens and realtors and that sort of thing. I am also co-founder of Siggy's Musical Garden, which is a nonprofit here in the Twin Ports. And our mission is to spread joy through music and art to the Twin Ports area. We started that a couple of years ago, and we've been able to provide 19 music performances to local assisted living facilities in the area during this pandemic time. So, and that's, as far as my work-wise, that's what I do.
Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. So we're going to get into a little bit of your story and how you got into the business you're in and your nonprofit. That's phenomenal. But what is your net worth today?
My net worth is $1,020,000 today.
And how is that broken up?
Let's see. We have $374,000 in traditional and Roth IRAs. do you want me to break it down? Like as far as most of it's in the total stock market index fund at Vanguard. We have that $374,000 in Roth IRAs and traditional IRAs invested in the total stock market index fund, basically. And we have $639,500 in equity from 9 properties that we own here in the area.
Wow, that's pretty phenomenal. So let's back up here. The money that you have invested in the market, was that from previous employers' 401k plans, or did you put some of that into a Roth traditional outside of employer 401k plans? How did that come about?
So through my husband's had a 401k at 3 of his past positions when he did work for other people. We rolled that money over into a traditional IRA. And then about it was in 2009 or 2010 when we both opened a Roth IRA and started contributing to that and maxing that out every year. So we have, about $200,000 in a Roth IRA and $177,000 in traditional IRA.
Okay. And was that something that he did from the very beginning of when he was working with those companies, or did that somewhat evolve over time as he kind of progressed in his career?
As soon as he was able to, I think in his first job, they started him out on a pension, and then they gave him the option to opt out when they decided to go with a 401k plan instead of the pension. And he could have got a payout at that time, but he decided to roll it over into the 401k. And he was surprised that a lot of his coworkers didn't at that time, and found that interesting. But he always invested in the 401k plans that the companies he worked for offered.
Awesome. So as you started this journey, at some point you decided to get into real estate. What was that like, and what was that transition of moving into investing in real estate and obtaining rentals?
So we started we were married young. I was 19 and my husband was 23. And the first 4 years of marriage, you're just trying to figure things out. I was a full-time student going to college, and we were having our first child, the same year that we were married. My grandparents had lived in their primary residence, but they still owned my father's the house that he was born in, and they also owned my great grandparents. We were able to rent both of those houses throughout the 4 years and then after those 4 years, after seeing how we maintained them, and my grandma and grandpa were ready to get out of the rental business, they had offered for us to purchase those first two on a land contract. And so we did that in 1998. And a couple years later, my grandpa went into the nursing home. My grandma was living at her primary residence, and it was too big for her at that time. So she decided she wanted to just rent a side-by-side duplex, one level, and she offered for us to purchase that one as well on a land contract. So we purchased our first 3 properties on a land contract, one as a primary residence and 2 rental properties.
Will you just explain that? What does that mean for somebody that's not familiar?
Oh, a land contract? It's a contract for deed. So we basically, it's rent to own kind of thing. You don't have to have any money down. We went to an attorney's office. He drew up the paperwork for the contract, and we had a 15-year mortgage that we paid directly to my grandparents during that time.
So for the houses that you said 3 houses like this, right?
Yes.
So for the houses that you weren't living in, I assume, were you living in one and renting out the other 2?
Yep.
So you would rent them out, they'd pay you, and then you'd basically go pay your grandparents to help pay down the contract amount or the purchase amount.
Right.
All right. Okay, sorry, go ahead, keep going.
Oh, yeah, no. And then the next property that we bought, and then after we started getting our footing in the rental business, we started looking on our own, and we took out our first mortgage. I actually just went to an estate sale. I was big into rummage selling because it was a good way for me to save money when we have 3 young kids, and our income was not ever very high. So anyway, I went to an estate sale, and the house was, in need of some cosmetic work on the outside and things. But when I went inside, I was like, oh, wow, this is a really structurally good looking house that was well maintained. It was an older house, probably early 1900s. But it looked like it was a house that would be in our price range. And I had talked to the person who was putting on the sister of the homeowner, and she told me who the realtor was, and I told my husband about it, and I said, I think this is one that we could afford to buy, and it would be a good investment. It had a nice lot and a garage, and we knew that we could afford that one. So we went ahead and contacted the realtor and purchased that one through a regular mortgage.
Wow. So let me just back up. So so you got married, you were 19, you said your husband 23. How long until you bought your first home, first property?
aside from the land contracts?
Or let's start, I guess, with the land contract. So,
okay. The land contracts, we purchased those roughly 4 to 5 years after we were married. So we got married in 1993. We purchased those in 98 and 2000 on the land contract. And then our next property was probably 2007, I want to say, was when we started purchasing properties through the bank.
Yeah. And so let me just jump back to your allocation here. So you have about $650 in real estate, right? $639 or so.
Mm-hmm.
How much of that is equity in your primary home versus equity in the rentals?
So our primary residence, 139,000 of that is in our primary residence, and then the rest is equity in our rentals.
Okay, nice. So are these land contracts something that's still doable, still attainable? Do you still do them? Do you hear of other people doing them? Because you don't hear about them as much, right? It's just buying a rental.
Right. We paid them off in 15 years. So they've been paid off for a while, our 3 land contracts. And you don't hear about it very often. And I suppose it's something that happens between family members more often than it does, because there has to be a trust factor that they're going to.
Sure. And how was the price? A fair price? I mean, market rate or?
Actually, we purchased them at the tax assessed value. So, it was a little lower than the market rate, but at the time in 1998, the interest rate on houses was 7%. So, we paid quite a bit for the properties, which.
Yeah. So how many, so you said seven homes, right? Or is that 7 rental properties?
We have 7 rental properties, our primary residence, and then we have a little house that we inherited in North Dakota where it's just used for hunting once.
Yeah. Okay, so 7 rental properties. How many of those 7 are paid off?
We have, of the rental properties, we have our primary residence paid off, and then we have 2 rental properties paid off, and we have mortgages on 5 of them. And we intend to have all of our mortgages paid off in 5.5 years. So
wow, that's coming up here pretty quick.
Yeah. So our last house we bought 2 years ago this September. And so that one will be paid off in 7.5 years rather than the 15 year, even though we took out a 15-year mortgage.
Yeah. So let's talk about that 15 versus 30 year. Did you take out 15 years on all of them?
Yep.
And could the cash flow from those that you rented out cover the mortgage, or did you have to subsidize some of them?
Nope. Well, maybe, I don't even know, maybe early on a little bit, but no, actually, no. They covered the expenses for those houses and actually our mortgage. The rental did, but we didn't rely on our rentals, and we still don't rely on our rentals for income, because anything that we make from the rentals, we invest back into the rentals, whether that is, we set aside a certain amount for improvements and repairs, and then we also invest back into the principal of the mortgages so we can get them paid off faster.
Yeah. So how much do you net? I know you throw it back in like you just said, but how much do you net now from the properties a month after mortgage payments?
After mortgage payments, I guess $18,575.
$18,575 is the total rents, or what you net?
Or no, what we net after. If we, that's the money that we would contribute back into. I don't know. I was looking at my taxes, and I figured out for each property.
So how much does each home rent for? Just to give an idea on.
Sure. Our first property, let's see, that one is at $925, and our second property is at $650. The next property is at $850, and then $900. Let's see, this one is $1050. Oh no, sorry, $1150 for that one. The next one is $950 and $900 for the last one.
Okay, great. So you're at just over about $6,000 of rental income a month.
Mm-hmm.
And then you pay down some of the mortgages and you reinvest the other. So when these are all reinvest, meaning take the additional income and throw it at the mortgages that you still have. So when this is all paid off in 5.5 years or so, that's your goal, right? Then you guys will be at over $6,000 a month in rental income, right? 72 grand a year.
Yeah. I think it actually, and then my husband also rents. I guess he pays the utilities at one of the rental properties, because one of the properties we bought, it has 2 garages and one's like a workshop garage. So he pays the utilities for that residence. So that, I guess that's another $325 that you could.
Yeah. And what's the price range? Just, type of homes. Is it like $100,000 homes, 200, 300? How much are these worth on average about? Are they all about the same type of property?
Well, some are a little nicer than others. Our first property is worth $115,000. Second one is $60,000. The next one is $80,000. The next 2 are about around the $80,000 price range. Then the next one's $135,000, and then we have one that's $93,000 and one that's $85,000.
Wow. Okay, so about around like 80 to 125-ish in that range. Wow, good for you guys. And do you self-manage all of these yourself?
Yep. We do all of the management ourselves, and we've had some learning experience.
That's what I was going to ask. Is you probably have some stories.
Yeah. The first 5 years, especially when you're first getting into it, and you need to keep them full because you don't have that extra income to have the luxury of open until you find the best tenants that are the best suited. And so, we've had a couple learning experiences with that. But
is there one that stands out?
Well, the time that we had to rent a dumpster and clear out a house because they just left a ton of things after we had evicted them because they weren't paying rent and that sort of thing. So that one stands out the most. But we've gotten smarter over the years, and it's okay if it sits vacant now for a month while we wait for the right tenant.
Find the right tenant, right. So you bought 3 from these purchase agreements, right? Mm-hmm. And then the other 4, the other deals you bought, or how did you find those?
Yep, they're just, I always keep an eye on I have the Realtor app on my phone. And so I always keep an eye on what's going on in the market. And it's especially when we get to the point where we have enough to put, a 20% down payment on something, then I really start, scoping out what the market is around here and what things are going for. And I look to buy houses that are basically on sale, and
right.
Yeah. And
so do you want to keep buying, or is 7 enough?
We've said, before we bought the last 2, we're like, I think we're done.
Yeah, exactly. 4 was enough.
Yeah. So something else comes along and then we end up purchasing. But it feels like we're done because I think, in 20 years, we're going to have to start unloading these properties, and we also want to make sure that we can maintain them and put on a new roof and that kind of thing. So
you hold it for 25 years, it's going to have some bigger repairs, right?
Yeah, and we have been really good about upkeeping our properties because that's important to us. One, we want to keep the community that we live in a nice place to live, and we don't want to rent something that we wouldn't feel comfortable living in ourselves. So that's always been our mission, to keep our houses in good order, and then you get a better draw of tenants as well. So
yeah, good for you guys. So is the goal in retirement to live off of all this rent collected and these paid for houses? I assume so.
Yes, to a point, yeah. I think we'll still continue with our business and just scale down throughout the years, as things get paid off and as we make all the improvements that need to be done on these properties, because some of that money, even when the mortgages get paid off, we'll probably want to do more major renovations to make them more sellable and just
right, more appealing. Yeah. So you bought these first 3 off the lease to own, right? How did you buy the other 4? You mentioned you said your income was never very high. What was the range of your guys' working or your household income?
So yeah, we've never made above 75,000 a year combined, with raising a family of 5. So I mean, it's basically, I mean, we just worked really hard at putting our money towards things that were going to help make us money, I guess, is what.
Well, I mean, that's amazing, Cheri, right? Household income 75, and now you guys own 8 homes, 7 rentals, and 1 primary residence.
Yeah.
Good for you guys. It's amazing.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, a lot of it, came from just my grandparents, in giving us that opportunity, because I don't think we would have ever entered the rental business had that not happened. And that was.
Yeah, but you still bought 4 on your own, or 5 rather, right?
We bought 5 on our own, yeah, because we have our primary residence is still my grandparents.
Yeah. So let's dive into your story a little, Cheri. We've talked about the net worth and the allocation and some of the real estate. How did this come to be? You mentioned you were married at 19, husband was 23, you were going through school. I assume you both got jobs, started working, right? You had the house home about 75,000. And then what happened? You decided to become unemployed, or not unemployed. You decided to become self-employed, right?
Yeah.
So walk us through your story a little bit.
Sure. So at the time, we started out both in the restaurant business. I was a server. My husband was an assistant kitchen manager working at the same restaurant. And he worked his way up to being general manager at that location. But it was getting to the point where our kids were were involved in sports and stuff. And he was missing a lot because he had to work on weekends, because that's when restaurants are busiest. So he had the opportunity to leave that job and get a job for a local coffee distributor here in the area. And so he would have weekends off to spend with our kids. He did that for a while. And then that business sold out, and he decided to, rather than stay with the company it sold to, he moved to a different route job and hated it. He felt like he was putting his good name on the line because their reputation, just things weren't managed properly, and he'd have to go into businesses looking like mud because he wasn't given the product that he needed to deliver to these people. And during that time, his parents were falling ill. His dad passed away first, and he was kind of the main caregiver of his parents. And then, so his mother needed more attending to. So we were the only ones living in this area. His brother and sister were outside of town. So we had to pick up the slack there, while also managing a household and jobs and that sort of thing. So when his mom passed away about a year and a half later, and he was still working the route job, plus trying to get the house ready for sale, clean it out, he's like, there's a need for something like this. And we decided to take a course on starting a business over at our local university and started an LLC. And he went out and used his skills that he learned from both being a general manager and being in sales, and went out and got some business from some of our local residents. And then he didn't even have to try after that, because the word of mouth spread, and he started picking up clients. So during that time, I was working 2 jobs for 2 years while he was starting to establish the business. And as he started earning more money, I was able to step back and work a little less. So then the clients that he had were asking him for things that I could do. They're like, well, do you know anybody that does any house cleaning? Or he'd have interior paint jobs that he couldn't get to right away, but he knew that from all the rentals that we've had over the years, we've always done all the painting and repairs. And he knew that I was very well capable of doing that. So I ended up taking on the interior painting and the home cleaning of residentials in the area.
Wow, Cheri, that's pretty phenomenal. Quite the American success story, going from working in the restaurant space to changing jobs to then going off and starting your own business to now becoming 100% self-employed. Congrats and kudos to y'all. It's pretty amazing and inspiring for sure. So as you've gone on this journey, you've built up this net worth. You've had all sorts of experiences, whether it's been, employed for somebody else or self-employed, built real estate portfolio, have market investments. Where do you go from here? Do you have a goal out there in terms of passive income or net worth that you're really trying to hit, or is there something else?
Yeah, I would say our goal of net worth is probably, 1.9 million or something, so just because I've kind of done the numbers where, 1.7 million would be a good place to retire, having that. Yeah, what I see is in the next year, we're going to keep building our net worth probably for the next 10 years or so, and then we'll see where we're at then, or if we decide to scale back as our rentals get paid off in 5 years, we might do that as well.
Yeah, totally. Is there certain experiences or things that you're looking forward to as you kind of move into that phase of life?
Yeah. We are, as you know, we're in northern Wisconsin here, right on the border of Minnesota and Wisconsin. And our winters are not the best. So I do think that we'll spend at least January and February somewhere where it's a little bit warmer every year. That's our goal. Not sure where that will be, but yeah, we definitely want to get out of the harsh cold climate here where it's 30 below in the winter time sometimes.
Yeah, totally. When you had your mortgage on your primary residence, was that a 15-year as well?
Yes. Yep. All of our mortgages, we've always carried 15 years.
Why did you choose 15 versus a 30-year?
Because I knew that we'd pay less in the long run, even though it was harder, it was a bigger payment. So, we'd have to struggle a little more. We always end up, getting them paid off sooner and pay less in interest over the term of the loan.
Yeah, totally. So when you moved careers or made that switch going to self-employment, were you nervous at all? Were you thinking second thoughts like, what am I going to do if this doesn't work out? Or was it just full board, I'm going to make this work no matter what?
Well, I think it was full board, we're going to make this work no matter what. And a lot of that, my husband's always been one to persevere. So, and he was plenty capable of doing home repairs and stuff. So that made it easier. As far as the family income, that he was a main breadwinner for a number of years while I was going to school and taking care of the kids. And it was time that I had to step up. I worked 2 jobs and I picked up extra shifts so that he didn't have to worry about making income during that time. If he wasn't busy, he was still trying to establish himself. But so it was a busy couple of years for me while he was getting established, and then I was able to ease up a little bit, and then he got to the point where he needed my help back in the business, and I was able to leave my place of employment to help him with our business that we created.
Yeah, wow, and good for you guys. Now you've built it up together and work as a team on it, so it's pretty awesome. Looking back, Cheri, did you guys worry about money along the way?
Yeah, of course. Well, especially in those first 4 years of marriage when you're really trying to figure it out. Plus, you're,
right,
having kids. I remember after paying all the bills and getting grocery and gas for that period of time, having $8 left in our account to make it till the next payday. I remember those days, and so definitely knew the struggle, and even through the years, we always lived off of but we always figured out ways to save money, and my husband's good at house repairs, so we didn't go out and buy new. We'd fix what we had, and a lot of that things. And like I said, I garage sales for kids' clothes, and I still don't like to buy new.
Right. It's kind of instilled in you now, right?
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Do you think you worried too much now, looking back and being a millionaire?
I don't know. I don't think so. No, because one of the fears that I had came from my mom. I went to school for elementary education, and I found out that I hated teaching. So I didn't pursue that career. And my mom was like, what are you going to do for, you don't have a pension. You can't you have a pension with serving or whatever. And that's when it was like, oh, okay, yeah, we need to figure out alternatives to what we're going to do instead of a pension or whatever. And so, I mean, to have a 401k, but I mean, I wasn't confident that was going to be enough. So, I mean, building our rental portfolio, and that was important to us, and our business was
helpful. Of course. So let's jump into some rapid fire questions here, Cheri. What's been the most expensive car you guys have ever purchased?
Well, we bought our 2006 4Runner. That was the most expensive one that we spent money on, and I think that was $18,000 back in 2008.
Okay. And do you buy used or new?
Used.
Okay. What about most expensive pair of shoes?
Well, probably $120. I was a runner for a time, so I spent money on quality shoes, and I still do, because I mean, your feet are important.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, for functionality purposes, not for design anyway.
Yeah. Most expensive meal out that you've personally paid for?
Well, probably $120 for the two of us.
Okay. If you're comfortable sharing, how old were you when you became a millionaire?
45.
Okay. We talked about retirement age or net worth a little bit. Have you ever used a financial advisor?
No, but I did rely on people that knew something about finance to help me out. Like when I was serving, we had some regulars that came into the restaurant, and there was a couple of old retired college professors that I would pick their brains a little bit, especially when it came to starting our Roth IRAs and rolling over our money from 401ks.
Any books or websites, anything or blogs or tech tools, finance tools that have been beneficial to you?
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely been following a lot of things like Rockstar Finance back when it was called that, and J Money and Mr. Money Mustache books. I've read. It started out with Susie Orman like years ago. Mm-hmm. I read my first finance book, but since then I've read many others that were more helpful to myself.
Yeah. Did you have debt along the way besides the real estate? Did you have student loans, credit cards, car loans, any other debt?
Car loans. I mean, we had one car loan, I think is what we've taken out. All the rest we've had probably 3 car loans in the history of our marriage, I suppose. But credit card debt, no, we never carried. We always paid our credit card at the end of the month. Student loan, because we were low income when I was going to school, I qualified for some grants and financial aid, and my grandparents had a college fund set aside for me to help with the expenses of college. So I graduated debt free from college, which is good.
Nice. Good for you. Good for you.
We didn't have any other debt besides the mortgages and regular bills. But.
Right. Do people know, whether it's friends or family or neighbors, do they know you're a millionaire? Do they know you're wealthy?
No. I actually told my son that I was doing this podcast. He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, we recently made millionaire status, so he just wasn't aware of that. But he's come to me for financial advice. He just started a job last year, and he's come.
Oh, nice.
He listens to his mom, which is good, and he'll be a millionaire long before I was. So.
Yeah, because you guys seem like the millionaire next door type of people.
Yeah.
Just from chatting with you before and now. So just in closing here, what does it mean to be happy and fulfilled to you, and has this money brought it to you along the way?
So yeah, family is definitely most important to me, and well, now my new passion is Siggy's Musical Garden, which is the nonprofit that I've been in, and when that's bringing joy and fulfillment to our community through music. So that I've done the most work for that I've ever done on anything. and don't get paid a penny for. So it's not the most financially savvy thing, but it's definitely been rewarding. Brought a sense of security. I mean, like it takes, I would say there's, some sort of fulfillment in having the security that you don't have to worry about what you're going to do in the next week, when you run out of money or whatever. So I don't.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So Cheri, just looking back now here in closing, any words of advice, any mistakes you wish you wouldn't have made, or any advice to somebody, maybe to your son, right? What do you tell him when he asks for financial advice?
Start investing early, because, the earlier you can get on that, and invest. Like my first book I read, I think that they said only invest 10% of, if you invest like 4 to 10% or whatever, you can retire comfortably. Well, I didn't know that you could get there faster if you invested more into things. So I guess investing all you can, but still have enough to, provide comfort and have a happy life, I suppose.
Yeah, great answer. So thanks, Cheri, for coming on. Really appreciate it. Net worth of over $1 million, 7 rentals, right? Eight properties, really 9 if you count the hunting cabin in Montana. Never had household income over 75, right? Is that true with the small business as well?
Yes. Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. Amazing story. So thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing it. Really appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Cheri.
Thanks for listening to the Millionaires Unveiled podcast with Clark Sheffield and Jace Mattinson. For more stories, investment opportunities, and information, check out our website at millionairesunveiled.com. See you next time when you'll hear from another everyday millionaire.